While deployed, every 20 seconds for 20 seconds, you'll be prioritized for attacks.
Meaning?
Everyone is going to focus on Lelouch, which makes sense since in the story he does attract all the female students. Also, he
stops
range damage that either is equal to or lower than 1400.
Who cares?
This ability is worthless because given that you don't place defensive characters by themselves without any support, unless
you are an idiot.
Most of the time, you're going to have a range or melee attackers backing them up, and probably healers. Does this help with those annoying enemies who attack from afar? Sure, but those enemies aren't the reason why you lose a given battle. Lelouch also reduced the cost of female pilots by 1 and
increases
their action speed by 1.2 times their normal speed. And given the theme of this event, this
makes sense.
There's something interesting about this ability, but we'll get to that in a second.
Next!
While deployed, Suzaku reduces the damage of all allied pilots in range by 0.7 for 20 seconds.
If
they happens to be
healers, does additional 0.7 protection. Basically, Suzaku answers the question,
who watches the watchman?
Suzaku, the rank 4 of this faction this time, has the faction reduction cost instead of being the typical free rank 3 unit.
Makes sense.
He also reduces the cost of all female pilots by 1. Suzaku, just like Lelouch, has similar melee and range stats, so they are compatible in either type of nightmare frame. Suzaku is a good healer and especially good when healing other healers, but
how often does that happen?
I can see that coming into play in the extra expedition levels or the hard extra story missions or the hard challenge maps, but
90%
of the time, that second ability won't come up.
And last, but certainly not least,
on deployment, Rivalz increases attack power for 20 seconds every 20 seconds.
I know it's confusing.
By 9%, and this effect
stacks
depending on how many male pilots there are currently deployed of the Ashford faction, which means you can boost his attack by 81%, which makes the attack now over 1000%. That's actually pretty good if that's how this character actually works. His second ability is similar. After deployment, every 20 seconds for 20 seconds, his defensive stats
increases
by 9% for each male pilot from the Ashford faction. Theoretically, Rivalz is one of the
strongest
Ashford units in the game. His melee and range stats are
perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
So he works with both nightmare frame types and has insane damage and defensive potential.
There's just one problem.
You have to run a dedicated male Ashford team, and I can see definitely some issues you're going to have on balance levels if you only use the male Ashford characters over the female ones, which includes many of the healers and of course Millie. So in most cases, are you ever going to have Rivalz at max power?
Nope.
But he's still going to be helpful in faction wars, and he's arguably the best character in this banner, which says something. You probably noticed this already, but it's interesting that these units help out the female pilots, and we just had the Valentine banner which gave us characters who are female Ashford pilots.
Coincidence? I think not!
So obviously these factions were made to go together. Even the backgrounds you get from both events look awfully similar with a color change. Overall, I'm not a fan of these units. They have interesting utility and very niche situations, but there are better pilots that do the same thing. If you want to summon these characters, then use them for the faction wars, the hard expedition levels, and run them with a dedicated team with the Valentine or Christmas characters, or really Ashford in general. There's nice symmetry there, but if you don't have all those limited characters, like myself, then
maybe you should skip this one.
At least the art is
fantastic.
Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of these new pilots? And since we got new Nightmare frames last month, I updated the Nightmare frame tier list. Watch that video right now.